Thank you for the very kind introduction. Great to see you guys today. I'm going to blitz through some information really quickly for the next 20 minutes. It should be about 18 minutes, and we got 2 minutes for questions. But like it was said, we have a number of brands that we sell on Amazon. We sell a number of their private labels. We sell some white labels. We sell in many different ways. What I'd like to talk to you today about is, first and foremost, if you are thinking about Amazon, what's the best model for you, depending upon your size and your ability to fulfill the product. And then once you've made that decision, which I think is the biggest decision, how do you make sure that you are successful from the get-go? So, I don't want to talk about Jeff Bezos. I think he's annoying. I don't think he's the best looking guy to take a peek at. But I do want to point out that what he says in this quote tells everyone here that he believes he's building the platform, the service platform through which he can do anything. Whether he wants to sell services, whether he wants to deliver any type of product, whether he wants to buy Whole Foods, it doesn't really matter. I also believe that we as retailers and brands think that this is what he really is saying. We think he's Dr. Evil. We think he says, I'm going to steal your data, your customer, and rule the world. How many of you today work for a company or work for a brand or represent a brand that sells on Amazon directly? Okay. And how many of you sell third party where you're selling it via consignment? Oh, no surprise to these two guys. I'm going to talk about the 3 fears of Amazon. The first, Amazon will steal my customers' data and remarket accordingly. This is the number one thing I hear from people when I talk about Amazon. Well, guess what? Every other retailer we sell to in a wholesale fashion, or we sell on the site of, they also have all of our information as well. When was the last time Macy's or Bloomingdale's or Nordstrom or Costco or Target or Walmart gave you their customers' information? I don't remember a time. They believe the platform they built or the stores that they have is what you're driving value into. So why would they give you that value back? Why would any retailer give you the customer information? They are the layer between the product and the end customer's expectations. The second one I always hear, Amazon will develop a private label with all my product sales data. Yeah, they will. But that's the reality. That's what retail's been for decades and decades and decades, right? We've always had a private label. We will always have a private label. Not every single customer believes in the marketing money that we spend as brands to build a brand that's more expensive than a private label. So get used to it. Get used to it. Number 3, Amazon will destroy the pricing integrity of my brand. That's true too. They will. You sell them direct. You don't have an agreement in place with them to maintain an MSRP. You're screwed. They will. So how do we get around that? I today, and you guys may disagree with me, believe that it's not a question of should I sell to Amazon, yes or no. It's how I sell to Amazon. So let me try and tell you the different ways you can so you can avoid the first 3. There's 4 models to Amazon. The first one is traditional wholesale. I sell a product to an Amazon buyer. That Amazon buyer sets up in the system a Monday purchase order with Wednesday fulfillment. I, as a brand, ship that directly to Amazon. Amazon then puts that up on the site, shoots the image, writes the copy, yada, 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 and then ships it directly to a Prime customer. So that's the most traditional way of retail. The second one is third-party Amazon fulfillment, also known as consignment. This is where the brand determines what they're going to ship into Amazon. It sits on the books of the brand, and then Amazon ships it to the Prime customer. Consignment. This next one is third-party merchant fulfillment. So this is, again, the brand determining what they put up on Amazon, but then when the order comes in, the brand fulfills it. And if you notice, it doesn't have the Prime badge. Those bottom two are now 51% of the business that Amazon does today. So Amazon sells more product today that they don't own than they did before. For Alibaba in China, it's 100% in those two buckets. The third one, which is a little bit more newer, is a repeat of the previous one, except some brands are so good at direct-to-consumer shipping, number 3, that they allow them to ship to their top customer, the prime customer. So when people say to me, I want to start selling on Amazon, and it's a high-end brand, that answer may differ for which model to choose versus a brand that's small, doesn't have the ability to ship direct to a consumer. So what's the difference between the 4 and what's the advantages of each model? The first one's pretty simple. 1, 2, and 4 all gain access to a prime customer. And someone may say, well, on number 3, why don't I just put 0 shipping? The problem with 0 shipping is if you know on the search bar refinement, you can click prime, you're then going to be excluded. You're also not going to have the badge on your product. So there are tremendous values to being part of prime. It's the highest spending customer group. Pricing on retail, remember that one key point that I said? If you're selling them direct, they're going to do whatever the hell they want. They will lose money on your product. They don't necessarily care. They may be in a fight with Kohl's.com. It depends. Now, there are brands that do exist that they do go to Amazon, and Amazon is willing to give them pricing that they'll set. But it's pretty few and far between, and it takes a lot of work. Inventory. They will dictate what sells well is what they'll buy. And you know what? They may start a line at like 2 pieces per style per size. It's hard to do business when you're doing that little business on a weekly basis for a SKU. On the other 3, you get to pick how much you want to send in. Because again, it's on consignment. It's still in your books until it sales. Marketing, it's their cash cow, man. It's where they're making all their money. They're selling all those ads, all those buy-ins for lightning deals, all those buy-ins for best deals. All that stuff is straight cash, and they know it. All 4 of them run similar type programs. And then the last, and this is probably debatable, is which one are you able to, I'm going to be careful, but say manipulate search results in. And it's largely easier to manipulate search results in the latter 3. So again, each one of these have advantages. Now, this is complex as hell, so I'm going to try and build up to it. Let's break down each one of these brands into 4 buckets. Startup and small, high-end, because we all know that high-end treats themselves differently, medium and large. If we pull up those 4 different models, each one of them is very different in which I think should be used by that type of brand or business. The first one's pretty straightforward. Startup and small businesses typically have issues doing direct-to-consumer shipments. It's very expensive to pick one product, pack it, and ship it. When you move up to a small business that's starting to be quite successful and they've figured out how to ship, then I would do number 2 and number 3. So I'd start filling direct-to-consumer. The one thing I want to point out, though, is once you light up number 3, you run the 24-hour SLAs. You've got a lot more inventory control because you'll only put up what you truly have. So you need to make sure that you have good inventory control, and it becomes more of a store. If you're high-end, and this is all the brands that we deal with on a license basis, the Nikes of the world, this is what they're talking about. The New Balance that we represent, this is how we're running. We don't sell everything directly to Amazon just because we know the pricing integrity may go away. So again, those 2, 3, and 4 allow you to dictate what your pricing is, allow you to figure out exactly how you want to market. They allow you to manipulate the search results a little bit more so than the retail side. But pricing can be maintained. And then the last 2, medium and large, I'd pick all 4. Now, as a business grows and it ebbs and flows, and you would start to pick which model makes the most sense. I think what's really interesting is one is starting to get hurt quite a bit as brands are starting to see that they can't do nearly as much business as these other buckets. Remember, here you're making wholesale dollars. These three are making retail dollars less their fees. Wholesale versus retail. Quite a big difference. Running short on time. Okay, the last slide. How do I ensure success? This slide I could probably spend 10 years on. These guys could probably too. And I'm happy to talk after. But I wanted to boil it down to 6 points. The first point, and in no particular order, except for the last one, is you gotta build a strong listing. If the thing looks like shit, it's not gonna sell shit. Trust me. There is so much product on that site. So much product. Number one. Number two, if you're not enabling that Prime customer, whether it's through the Prime badge or it's through FBA, you're gonna have a very difficult time. You will still sell product, but you're gonna have a very difficult time. Number three, believe it or not, even if you have a review that's 2 or 3 stars, it's better than having nothing. It really is. You'll start selling stuff regardless of no reviews, but you need it to gain some traction within the marketplace. Number 4, and this is the hardest part of this entire flywheel in my estimation, you have to ensure that you've always got product available up there on the site. Why do I say that? Once you hit a stock out, you start selling less, right? You have no ability to sell any further. You start to drop in the rankings, and you see what you built, what you tried so hard to maintain in ranking, starts to drop. And it's very difficult if you're not 100% in stock. Very, very difficult. The last one, it's a pay-to-play marketplace, man. If you're not spending 2, 5, 7, 9, 12, 14% of sales, then I don't think you're optimizing what you could do on the marketplace. It all depends on the brand and where you are maturity-wise, but you have to pay to play. And whether it's in buying keywords or buying coupons, paying for the markdowns, paying for Prime Day, you need to do it. Some stuff comes free, as we all know, but not everything. The majority of it's pay to play. Everyone asked me, they said, so what do you think about Prime Day? They lose a bunch of money, right? They really don't, because the brands pay for the markdown, they pay for the promo. The only stuff they're really losing money on is the echoes that they're selling at 40% off. That's it. Everything else they're making money on. So pay to play. And then the last, which I think is the most important step, you gotta refine, refine, refine. One thing that's amazing to me about Amazon is if you think about a listing page as a piece of real estate, and you think about the equity you've built in that page, if you don't continue to refine it over time, it will slowly decline over time. You gotta maintain it, continue to freshen it up, but realize, especially us in the apparel world, Amazon is not based on seasons. It's seasonless inventory. So if it does well for one season, keep making it. Keep making it. I don't think this 15 and a half minutes does Amazon justice at all. But what I want to make sure everyone hears is, whether it's Amazon.com, whether it's Amazon.in, .ca, Zappos.com, Shopbop.com, Eastdane.com, they have built an ecosystem that we as brands must play in, because the captive eye set and the excitement of those customers and how quickly they buy is probably unlike anything we've seen since Bentonville, Arkansas in the 60s. So you must be on it. You just got to play it right. And I hope to God someone else comes up along and upsets them. But for right now, they're the biggest marketplace, and they're the one that you need to be on. Thanks for your time. Happy to take questions.
Hi, how are you? Thank you.
How are you?
So I have a fashion brand that sells on Shopbop and on Amazon as well. So
Yep.
we sell them the product and then they sell it to the customer. So my question for you is, out of the 3/4 ways of doing business with Amazon, does one preclude the other? Are you able to, sell directly to consumers in one of the options that you listed, if you also work through their buying office and sell them product directly?
Yeah, so they used to not allow it, and then they allowed it, and they call it hybrid brands. And if I was you, I would make sure that you double check to see which ones make the most sense on which platform. So there's certain products where I would argue to you, you probably want to just sell it to retail or you want to sell it to ShopBop because of the margin and maybe the price point. If it's a low price point, shipping it to them is a little bit better than running on an FBA. Because those FBA fees, number 2, 3, or 4, they can start to add up quite a bit. And if you don't have the ability, if you've got, let me give you an example. New Balance men's underwear. So we'll sell a 3-pack close to $33. That's an amazing FBA product. A single, we'll run it at like $9.98. Would I rather sell that to retail? Probably. It's a little bit lower priced. They can deal with the distribution. My margin is a little bit better if I run it that way. So once you've got that hybrid account set up, my advice to you is pick the channel that makes the most sense. View them as 4 separate stores, 4 separate clients. You know, it's just like how we manage business for Macy's and Macy's.com. The economics of both are very different.
Another question back here.
So, and this, I guess, parlays well off the last question, but
Yeah.
you've made the model seem somewhat formulaic. If you follow these steps, you can figure out the model. Why do you think that Amazon hasn't really been able to crack the fashion code? So sure, they have ShopUp, but I mean, over the years, they've tried Amazon Fashion and all different types of models to really break into it. And I feel like that's the one sector that they haven't been able, for not ShopUp aside, for true Amazon, been able to really break into. What are your thoughts on that?
What's your definition of success for breaking the fashion?
So I wouldn't go, for something that I personally would buy on ShopUp, I would
Yeah.
never think to look. I know Amazon owns ShopUp, but I wouldn't go to Amazon as a starting place for that search for the type of clothing that I would buy on a ShopUp or any other true fashion site. So
Yeah.
along those lines, it would be by accident, or if I was like really seeking out a specific piece and was going to try everywhere to find it.
Yeah. So I would completely agree with you. I don't think they've done fashion well. I do think what they have done a good job of is buying Zappos, buying ShopUp, acquiring companies that they knew would take the stigma of Amazon from them. I don't think anyone outside of this room that's a normal consumer really knows that ShopUp is Amazon or Zappos is Amazon. It's kind of lost in translation, like a lot of the brands that we buy today. With that said, I also think that Amazon doesn't want the fashion customer on Amazon.com. I think they don't care. I think it's a lot of smoke and mirrors, and this might be completely unconventional and you think that I'm crazy. However, I think that they are after the true consumable spend because there's so much more money there. The number one thing that we spend in our wallets today is groceries. That's what I think they really, really want, and obviously with things like Whole Foods and stuff like that. But I think they've, dipped their toes and tried to do fashion, and it's not their number one thing they're looking for. So I don't think they've really taken a good whiff at it.
Okay, we're going to try and squeeze in one more question here from the back.
Yep.
How does Nexus play into the decision-making criteria for which model is right for you?
What do you mean by that? Can you give me some more context?
Tax nexus.
Tax. Okay, taxes, yeah, I didn't think we'd get into this in 20 minutes. Taxes are tough, man. I'm not gonna lie. So just context for anyone, taxes you don't really have to deal with right here. I mean, you have to deal with taxes in all of them, but because you're doing direct to consumer here, you have to deal with taxes based upon where the product is domiciled, where you're domiciled, where the product is shipped to. It's a pain in the ass. We outsource 100% of it. Right. It's tough. Software-wise, they do it for us. I build it into the cost. I didn't see you in the audience. I build it into the cost.
Do you choose a model based on?
No.
Do you recommend choosing a model based on that? Fulfill FBA or not?
No, I think, I'm a biggest fan. I don't know about you, but I'm the biggest fan of third party, just because earning that retail dollar is just so attractive.
I spent a lot of time looking at the tax issue if anyone wants to talk about it afterwards, but we're going to have to wrap it up. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.